not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
All right, he's our guy, Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News sports department here, where we will engage in some speculation, some information, maybe even some pontification about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Maybe some pontification. We'll see. Boys, it's always kind of fun when we get something trickling in the Wolves newswire right as we hit record on Flagrant Howls here. So, Dukes, there's a million. We got to get to the latest on KD. I have a thought about Oklahoma City as it pertains to the Timberwolves too, but Chris Finch was just on KFXN radio in the Twin Cities, and he was asked a number of different things, but one of the things he was asked was if he expects Naz Reid and Julius Randle on the team next year. Try to put Finchy in a corner with that question, and Finch said absolutely yes. And then he also was asked about Terrence Shannon Jr. and are you gonna play him more, Finchy? And Finch said next year, obviously, he's going to be a significant part of our rotation, Terrence Shannon Jr. But, all right, I don't know what else Finch is supposed to say, Dukes, when he's asked point blank, are these two guys still going to be on the team? He's saying absolutely yes versus dancing around it in some awkward way. What are your thoughts? Let's start there.
Well, here's what I think, Phil. If you asked Finch this time last year, is Cat on your team for the 24-25 season? Absolutely yes. Things change. There is a fluidity to the offseason. The Wolves are willing to do a whole lot of things, pretty much anything that doesn't include trading Anthony Edwards. Now, do I think Jaden McDaniels is going somewhere? No, but the point is, this front office is incredibly open-minded. Reid, Randle both have player options. We saw the social media pic from a bar on Lake Minnetonka last week, Tim Connolly gathering with Naz Reid. They've had a number of conversations I've been saying for a long time. Keeping Naz. When they traded Cat, that was always the idea. Now, exactly what the contract looks like, heck, does he exercise his player option, then choose free agency a year from now? There's some moving parts there, but I've always been led to believe the idea was once you trade Cat, you are making a long-term commitment to Naz Reid. I have not heard anything to suggest otherwise. On Julius Randle, okay, well, we know they've engaged Phoenix for a while, going back to February. You have to make some money work, right? So is it Rudy Gobert's contract or is it Julius Randle's contract? Like, to me, if KD makes this commitment and says, hey, I'm willing to play with Ant, I'm willing to be a Wolf, well, guess what? It's entirely possible that Julius Randle is going elsewhere, that Phoenix is looking for win-now type players. That's why you hear some Dante DiVincenzo steam. Now, hey, do they want a young asset? Absolutely. Like I was told with San Antonio, they've been asking for Stephon Castle plus the number 2 pick. So Phoenix is aiming for the moon. Phoenix is asking for a crap ton for Kevin Durant. At some point here, I imagine when we chat this time next week, I do think we'll have some closure at that point. So at some point, Phoenix needs to lower its demands. But I'm just saying, it's entirely possible that Randle ends up elsewhere with a Kevin Durant or someone else. Maybe there's some stealth move, right? Tim Connolly works in the weeds. A lot of stuff doesn't break until it's been agreed to. That there's some other move out there where you need to make money work. That if you're committing a ton of money to Naz Reid, you are starting him. That you're not bringing a $30 million, whatever it is, $24 million, $25 million, a 4-year, approximately $100 million extension, whatever it adds up to, with yearly increases, somewhere, above $20 million a year. I don't think you're bringing a Naz Reid $20 million a year player off the bench. So just remember that when thinking about absolutely positively that Julius Randle is back next season.
Dukes, with your vast experience covering this league and all of the things, the machinations that go on, what is your personal analysis of this Durant stuff? Because like a week ago, we heard that the Wolves were the leading candidate and then it might get done in 3 days. And then it's Durant doesn't want to necessarily play here, but now it's that the Wolves have potentially the best offer on the table. So Like, what is your, as you try to delve down into your mind what the truth is as we sit here today talking about this, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the Wolves haven't given up hope. I mean, same as last Thursday when I joined you guys saying, hey, the Wolves absolutely want Kevin Durant. They're all in for the most part, not putting Ann on the table. So that's an overstatement, but you get the idea. The Wolves badly, badly want Kevin Durant. I've not been led to believe here on Tuesday morning that anything has changed in that regard. So here's the question. So in February, there was a sense that KD was open-minded to playing here. So why all this national chatter now about Kevin Durant having zero desire to be here in Minnesota? And I haven't been actually able to pinpoint the exact reasoning. You know, full transparency, I've not spoken with Rich Kleiman or Kevin Durant. So until I correspond, probably more so with Rich, it's me guessing, you know, from an educated standpoint, but guessing, also bouncing that question off a lot of people in the league. So, you know, here's one theory. I'll read it to you from somebody who works in the NBA.
Oh,
I mean, not everyone looks at the Timberwolves organization as the cream of the crop. So very reasonable to think that he may just not want to play in Minnesota. Others have brought up state income tax, the weather. I don't know if I'm buying that. He played in Brooklyn. He's from Washington, D.C. I get it. Our weather isn't exactly that of Baltimore, D.C. or Brooklyn. He also played in Seattle, right? Like, I'm not buying the weather thing, but you hear all these theories. I've also heard, hey, are the Wolves willing to give him the max extension? So he's looking, just like Jimmy Butler signed an extension in Golden State upon the trade, pretty soon thereafter, agreeing to a 2-year extension at max money. Are the Wolves willing to commit that sort of money to Kevin Durant for his ages, 38 and 39 seasons? He'll be 37 when this season starts. That's a fair question because inevitably he's going to miss games. He's still playing at a Hall of Fame level. We can't debate that. We can absolutely make the case that he helps the Wolves in many ways, especially on the offensive end. But is that for 60 games? Is that for 58 games? Is that for 65 games? I don't think it's for 75 or 80 games. Is he healthy come April? Heck, what does Kevin Durant look like ages 38 and 39? You feel pretty good about this year. So I've heard all these theories. I can't necessarily pinpoint the exact reasoning. I will also say, like, Kawhi Leonard didn't want to go to Toronto. Like, there's not necessarily a bad thing if you're moving off some money to bring in KD without an extension. And hey, come here, kumbaya, it all works out well. You can agree to an extension later. But like, I haven't been told that the Wolves are anti the possibility of bringing Durant in and no extension is reached immediately. I know it's out there a little bit that there's cause for concern that if KD isn't all in, why would you make that trade? I've not necessarily heard that.
Couple things that you brought up, Jimmy Butler, and it's funny because a couple days before he actually wound up getting traded, green lighting to the Warriors, I don't want to throw this reporter under the bus because it's a great national reporter, but there were like credible national reporters, and I'm reading one here that said Jimmy Butler is unwilling to sign an extension with the Warriors and trade talks to send him to Golden State have ended, sources told so-and-so. It's incredible how much things change from day to day. Some of this could be posturing. Also, on the extension front, if I'm the Wolves, I am very nervous about ages 38 and 39 for Kevin Durant, and that would give me pause for a $120 million 2-year extension. But there's value in maintaining that salary slot as part of your roster building. And now if your goal is to get him in for 1 year at 55.5, you're way over the salary cap, and then he walks and signs elsewhere in a year from now, you don't get to replace that $55.5 million unless it's a sign-in trade. But there's a bunch of teams with cap space. So part of this, like when the Wolves re-signed Rudy Gobert to that extension, the initial like top layer of outrage was, how could you sign him to a 3-year extension, even for less money? Look how old he is. He can't play offense. And Tim Connolly, I bet if you were to get him at Cove over a cocktail and some ceviche, there's no way he would have said, we did this extension for Gobert to guarantee he's on our team when he's 35 years old. They do these extensions sometimes to maintain that salary slot so that you can trade Gobert or Durant down the road for these two other players, and you can just, it's asset management more than it's locking into a deal until a guy is over the age curve, Dukes.
Oh, absolutely. And they were able to save some money on Gobert. So, yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Plus, hey, we could learn later today that KD is all in on being a Wolf. Like, the one thing I've heard more than anything is, more than anything, KD wants to be a New York Knick. Well, there's no sense that the Knicks are heavily involved. You know, maybe a call here, call there, but it doesn't seem like New York is, you know, all in, right? Now, maybe that changes, but that's what I've heard more than anything. Or he'd like to be a Boston Celtic. Well, I don't think that's happening either. Okay, so are we sure like he really wants Miami, Houston, San Antonio?
That's interesting.
Now, maybe so, but and I get it. No state income tax in those states. I get that. I understand that. But I'm just saying, are we positive he wants Houston that much more than Minnesota? I'm just saying it absolutely could change. I don't think the Wolves' interest in KD is changing anytime soon. Now, I don't know if in the end I would bet, because there are so many moving parts. I don't know if I would bet that KD lands here, but I don't think the Wolves' interest in KD is changing like later today or tomorrow. I don't think we're going to hear that the Wolves are 100% out. If you hear that, I'm still not buying it until we see KD land elsewhere.
It feels like more because of the timing and all of the steam that's basically going around. This feels more, and I guess it's why I asked your professional opinion, like more of a negotiating ploy than, like, I could see KD trying to control things more. But yeah, because I did think, well, Texas and Florida state income taxes are out, but if you're telling me New York and Massachusetts, then that's not true. Like, because you're paying a ton there. So yeah, I'm with you. In February, he was willing to come here, but now he's not, and he has no, like, that feels to me like there is something transpiring. And you know what? The Suns, I'm sure, have tried to get Jaden. It sounds like he's off the table, which is good. Mm-hmm. But if the Wolves could unload Gobert, and we talked about this on Flagrant Howls yesterday, with the declining metrics and things about his game, if the Wolves could unload Gobert at this point, I think it would be I think the timing would be very fortuitous.
Well, if Durant is the return, is what you're saying. So you're getting Durant, but you're sending out Gobert.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I'll continue to say that, to me, offense is more important than defense. And it's not like you're going to be the 25th ranked defensive team. Elston Turner, those guys on the Wolves coaching staff, they know what the heck they're doing. If you lose Gobert, a lot of the defensive principles are in place. Yes, you will miss the rim protection. You will miss the shot altering. I understand that. Gobert, to me, is still a rock-solid defender. But I'll take offense over defense. Plus, KD isn't exactly a sieve on the defensive end. He can play some defense. So, yes, I get it. If it's Gobert plus DiVincenzo plus Dillingham, yeah, I mean, I think the Wolves would be very open-minded to that possibility. And I get it, though. They want that commitment. And are you willing to give him 120 on the extension, or are you trying to get him at a lower number? How much of this also, Judd, is Phoenix leaking enough stuff, Brian Gregory, others in the Suns front office, trying to drive up the price, whether it's Houston,
correct,
San Antonio. Right now, San Antonio is not putting Castle or the 2 pick on the table. I don't think that's going to change. But are you trying to drive up the price? What exactly is Houston willing to offer? Are they willing to offer Jalen Green plus Jabari Smith Jr. plus a little bit more? Or are you trying to drive the price up with the Rockets?
Also, if you're the agent, even though he's an all-time great player, who is still one of the best half-court offensive players in the league, but he is going to be 37. And so if you're the agent for a 37-year-old basketball player, you'd love to lock in that age 38, 39 season right now and have $120 million ready to rock wherever he winds up playing those years. And if the Wolves are currently unwilling to make that guarantee, it is in your best interest as the agent, and I'm just theorizing here, just a little speculation among friends. It's in your best interest to leak, you know what? He really doesn't want to play for the Timberwolves But maybe Houston has said, hell, we'll give him the extension. Or San Antonio says, hell yeah, we'll give him the extension. If the Wolves haven't, then the agent is playing some hardball, saying, well, maybe if my client had a $120 million 2-year extension on the back end of this expiring contract, he'd warm up to the Skyways in Minneapolis. Like, there's so much of this posturing happening. Can I throw another name at you, Dukes?
Well, you can, but you're right. I mean, put it this way. It's not the Suns leaking that specific point that Katie doesn't want to be there. All right. So just connect those dots. Where is that coming from? Okay. Well, it's not the Suns. It's not the Wolves. I'm just telling you that. So
is it Katie's burner accounts? Maybe
it's the KD camp. Okay. So yeah, that specific point. Absolutely. Okay. Run what you have by me.
So yeah, this is just, I don't know where this originated from, but I saw this on Wolves Twitter yesterday, and it's a name that you had brought up to us before the trade deadline. He went somewhere else. But right now, on most mock drafts, the San Antonio Spurs, who are in this KD mix right now, but if they hang on, and there's no way they trade the number 2 overall pick for a 37-year-old Kevin Durant. So assuming they hang on to the number 2 pick, they are projected across most mock drafts to select Dylan Harper, who is a very good point guard, shooting guard kind of combo from Rutgers, to essentially be the young guard next to Wemby if it all works out for the forthcoming seasons, right? Well, they traded for De'Aaron Fox, starting point guard from the Kings, and I think Fox has an expiring contract. He's up for a new deal as well, so they're trying to figure out, right, do we pay De'Aaron Fox or not? So, like, if the Wolves are out of the KD sweepstakes here at some point, and you're looking for a different, bigger move of some kind, we've thrown out a bunch of different names. What are the chances that the Spurs would draft Dylan Harper and then look to move off De'Aaron Fox and get some other assets for him in potentially a multi-way deal? Is there a shot in the dark that the Timberwolves would revisit whatever interest they had in him going back a few months?
All right, well, the draft, first round, 8 days away. The draft really starts at pick 3. So pick 1, Cooper Flagg to Dallas. Pick 2, Dylan Harper to San Antonio. That isn't changing. You have Harper, you have Castle, and you have Fox. How exactly do those 3 coexist? Are you missing out on some perimeter shooting? Yes, Fox is due an extension pretty darn soon. So if you're San Antonio, you get incredibly lucky on lottery night. You climb all the way up. Like, I don't know if this was a possibility in their minds pre-lottery night, but you climb the ladder. You end up at pick 2 when you weren't supposed to be at pick 2. There's a clear-cut second best prospect in this draft class. You're not passing on a transformational talent like Dylan Harper. So you're taking Harper. You have a really good player on a rookie contract like Castle. Okay. So maybe right now, are you trading him to a Western Conference contender? You feel like your window is now opening in San Antonio. Are you helping out a Western Conference contender? If you're the Wolves, who are you moving for De'Aaron Fox? But yeah, I mean, the Wolves had interest in Fox going back before Sacramento moved him to San Antonio. So there are De'Aaron Fox fans over at Mayo Clinic Square. So Wolves' interest in De'Aaron Fox? Yes. Like, we've talked about that for months. I don't have any sense that that's changed. But I don't know if you're San Antonio. Maybe you do ultimately move Fox, but is it here to Minnesota? Do the Wolves make the best offer?
Put a percentage right now, Dukes. Wolves make a Durant, De'Aaron Fox. Well, what's your percentage of Tim Connelly making a major move in the summer here?
Okay, so if he ends up with like Alonzo Ball, that doesn't count as major?
I think that's minor. I think I would draw the line at like, well, I guess is Kobe White major? I think he's more major than Lonzo Ball.
Kobe White's a pretty good
I think
move,
Kobe White would be major.
Yeah.
So Nick Claxton, if you swapped out like Gobert and wound up with Nick Claxton, I think major involves moving one of these big key starting pieces and getting someone who changes the complex of your starting lineup, right? And your rotation.
Okay, so if you sign and trade Nikhil and
Lonzo,
you get, just for example, Lonzo Ball, that's not major. Okay.
That's minor.
That's not a major move.
Yeah. But if you trade Rudy to the Bulls for I don't know how many teams would be involved here. Maybe it's straight up, and you wind up with Kobe White, and you find another big man to either come off your bench or start in place of Rudy. But and now all of a sudden you got Kobe White or like a Colin Sexton from the Jazz. I'd put him in that bin too. Jazz are looking to shake things up.
Yeah, I would actually like to see Colin Sexton here. I still have memories of that Alabama-Minnesota game.
Oh my gosh, dude!
He had all sorts of success 3-on-5. So yeah,
there was like 3-on-5.
I would love to see Colin Sexton here with the Wolves. Yeah, that was one of the all-timers.
Yes. I forgot about that. Oh my god!
On Thanksgiving, was it? It was Thanksgiving or Black Friday.
Yeah, it was.
That,
yeah,
it was that
it was
weekend.
a holiday
Yeah.
It was
weekend.
during a Gopher football game.
Yeah, I think it was at Barclays Center, wasn't it, in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Was that Ben Johnson or
tournament.
Patino? Was Patino
That would have
coaching?
been
Patino.
Yeah, Patino.
Brutal,
yeah.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
wild.
anyway, I like Sexton. Yeah, depending on what the exact role is, but I wouldn't mind seeing that. I would say on a major move then, by your definition, below 50%.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying 5%, so maybe 20, 25. Like, we know Connolly goes big game hunting.
Right.
He does, right? And hey, you take the temperature across the league. I mean, I guarantee there are some scenarios that have been discussed that we have no idea about. Heck, Orlando's GM said that the other day, that you go around the league. He didn't think Desmond Bane was a possibility going back many weeks, but you start taking the temperature around the league. Then, hey, you hear from Memphis, yeah, okay, make an offer. We'll listen. Yeah, like, he's not untouchable. So there's all sorts of chatter. Like right now, behind the scenes, there is so much going on. Now, I'll continue to say, most trades talked about never happen. But, like, you can't say 5% with this front office. You just can't do it. And so, yeah, I'm somewhere in that 20 to 25%
It's pretty good.
range. Yeah. Now, what's interesting to me is, Connolly, a lot of his moves have come out of nowhere. And how frontal all this Kevin Durant stuff is.
Agreed.
But then again, you've got Rich Kleiman with his fingerprints all over this, which, hey, I get it. Kevin Durant's agent should be a big part of this when talking about an all-time player. But to me, it's interesting how much information is out there about the Wolves when in the past, a lot of stuff doesn't pop until it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple more Wolves things with our guy Dukes here on Flagrant Howls. By the way, brand new Flagrant Howls YouTube channel. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, you can go over to YouTube, click that like button, subscribe button. If you're watching for the first time, please help us out. We're almost to 4,000 subscribers. Just an amazing community of Wolves fans here during this reckless speculation season. And we're bringing you near day-to-day updates on what they may or may not be doing to make this team potentially a championship contender. So click that like button, the subscribe button. And Judd, this little session here with our guy Dukes is presented in part by MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Absolutely is. Are you prepared in the month of June for what they call a new ACC system? Because MSP is making your upgrade even better this month. Install new equipment and get a free pristine air cleaner, a major boost in comfort and air quality. And also MSP partnering with the Open Door, a hunger relief organization providing food to more than 20,000 people a month. MSP will be collecting brown paper bags during their HVAC and plumbing calls. The bags are then used to distribute food to people in need. So when you book your appointment with MSP, guess what? You can unload all those paper shopping bags, and they're going to go to a good cause. Just give them a call, 651-615-4292, or check out their website, callmsp.com. Call msp.com. I have used them myself for various projects. They do fantastic work. Call msp.com.
Have you used Parlor for any specific things, Judd?
I got a suggestion here, okay? So next time Naz and Conley meet out in the western burbs, okay, get on the pontoon, go across the lake, and check out in Excelsior the new Parlor, which is absolutely fantastic. I mean, we've been talking about the burger for how long? Because the burger is great. I've been telling you, do not sleep on the chicken sandwich. It is also fantastic. And that's right, they now have a supper club and a regular Parlor bar in Excelsior to go along with the locations in the North Loop and St. Paul as well. So Tim, Naz, I got a suggestion. Wayzata's great. Hunky-dory, no problem. But check out the Excelsior Parlor for absolutely great burgers, craft cocktails, and maybe just a little bit of privacy.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I mean, didn't look like they needed or wanted privacy.
It did not.
Where they were.
Right, that's what I'm saying, if they want a little bit of privacy.
Dukes, is there anything as the Wolves go through their options here, starting with KD? Is there any inkling for you, just in your opinion, to look back at the OKC model? And I guess a little bit apples to oranges and kind of like the amount of young talent that OKC had. But last year, OKC wins 57 games in the regular season. They get bounced in the second round against Dallas in 6 games. And they go back to the drawing board. What do we do here? We have a treasure trove of draft picks and young players. Could make a huge splash if we want to, or we could make a couple tweaks. And they wind up trading Josh Giddey, a good young talent, to Chicago for Alex Caruso, who's one of the best on-ball defenders in the entire league, and he's just brought this tenacity and scrappiness. He's got some championship cred with the Lakers going back 5 years. And then Isaiah Hartenstein, who's been just this huge, to put him next to Chet Holmgren and have these huge 7-footers grabbing rebounds, altering shots, rim protection. They opted to make a couple, Hartenstein's a starter, but like they didn't go for a KD, Do you learn anything from that model where, hey, if you kind of stay the course, maybe you swap out Rudy for this, but ultimately you lean into more Terrence Shannon Jr., you empower Jaden McDaniels to be more of an offensive force, et cetera?
By the way, this front office has been fans of Caruso going back some time. He's been on our radar. So, on the radar of a lot of front offices. What a shrewd move, sending Giddey to Chicago for Alex Caruso. Now, it helped that OKC had cap space to outright sign Isaiah Hartenstein. So that helps. But yeah, the idea of just running this thing back, okay, Nikhil ends up elsewhere. By the way, may not get the full 4-year mid-level. I was reminded, speaking with Yossi Goslin, who's a cap expert, used to write for Hoops Hype. He's omnipresent. He's all over the place. Third Apron podcast. Anyway, he reminded me on Monday that last year, nobody got the full 4 years on the mid-level. D'Anthony Melton got the money, but it wasn't the full term. So, Nikhil may not get 4 years, $60 million, but he is going to get a chunk of the mid-level. Okay, so you let him go. Terrence Shannon Jr., who's older than Ant, is ready for an increased role. Jalen Clark is clearly a rotational player. That you run this thing back. That Julius Randle is back on his player option. That Naz Reid signs an extension. Okay, Naz, you're going to have to at least come off the bench for 1 year, but we'll get you back to your 6th man of the year form of 2 years ago. Let's run this thing back that, hey, Randle missed how many games last year? DiVincenzo missed how many games? We'll have a little bit more injury luck on our side. That Greg Farnham, others with the medical staff, will keep these guys healthy. That this roster is currently configured. Okay, subtract Nikhil. We get that, but Terrence Shannon Jr. can replace Nikhil, maybe even elevate, although Nikhil, to me, the first half of last season was their second or third most valuable player. For a stretch was their most valuable player. But anyway, that you feel good about Terrence Shannon Jr. You have pick 17. You have pick 31. Is it possible one of those two guys can be a 9th/10th man? That this roster is better than 49 wins. That you can get to 54 or 55. You elevate. You're a top 3 team in the Western Conference. Mm-hmm. You don't need to fight scratch claw to avoid the play-in. That you're comfortably in the top 4. You have home court advantage. We've seen the importance of home court advantage. That there is a clear pathway to doing that by just running this thing back. I am sure, Phil, those conversations have absolutely occurred.
Yeah.
Chris Finch loves Julius Randle, so why would you send out Julius? Finch and Julius have great synergy. That's a great relationship. If you're Finch, you had no problem with moving Cat to get Julius, so why do you want Julius now gone after a year? You love Naz. Why not run this thing back? Yes, I think you could get a lot of people on board with that exact thought while also staying below the second apron. I don't have all the mechanisms in front of me, but there's a pathway to staying below the second apron. That you stay below the second apron, you run this thing back for the most part, you take your chances in the 25-26 season. Sure, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News.
Now, you still have OKC, right, Phil? So how are you overcoming that hurdle next year? But, hey, is there an injury? Things can change. Does KD end up in Houston or San Antonio? So how much better is that team with KD? So there's some things to figure out in the Western Conference. But yeah, you can absolutely sell me on this core. There's no reason to blow this thing up again. You blew it up last year. You don't need to do it again. Run this thing back. That there's something to be said about continuity, chemistry, all that stuff. That you just do this thing again with this roster pretty much as currently constructed.
Yeah, there he is. Darren Doogie Wolfson. Great stuff
Wolves
here.
draft workout tomorrow, so it was interesting. The Wolves on Monday announced their draft workout. They've had a number of draft workouts going back weeks, so I have no idea why they chose all of a sudden on Monday to publicly announce the names that were in, because there's been names in going back weeks. But the big names so far, Nick Clifford, we knew on Sunday because he was working out with Nico Medved over at the Gophers facility, former Colorado State Ram, so he's got that connection to Nico. So Nick Clifford was in on Monday. Tomorrow, Janai Broom, I don't know, we can debate, is he a first-round talent or a second-round player, but National Player of the Year from Auburn. So I know Janai Broom. Curtis Jones, Cretin-Durham Hall, Iowa State, big-time scorer. I know he's due in this week. I don't know if it's specifically Wednesday or not. Probably is. I mean, they'll have a bunch of guys in on Wednesday. But Janai Broom, for sure, I'm told, due in on Wednesday. Then last week, the power forward from Georgia. I may botch the name. Phil, do you know the pronunciation? Asa Newell. Am I saying that right? Asannewell.
I think you're right on that. Yeah.
Asa Newell. Yeah.
It's gonna do. It's gonna do.
I'm somewhere in the ballpark. Just say it with conviction. Asa Newell. So anyway, he was in last week. So he was another first-round talent that they've taken another up-close look at.
Yeah. Love it, man. All right, we'll talk
then
again.
The ownership
soon
vote
here.
is coming, Phil. It's not going to be at the Board of Governors meeting in Vegas in July. So we're awaiting the official transfer to Alex Rodriguez and to Mark Lowry. Then we await all the changes on the business side. Changes are absolutely coming, so we're waiting on the transfer to those guys, the Tim Connolly contract extension. That'll come after the transfer. Then certainly some changes on the business side.
A busy summer in many ways, dudes. All right, buddy. We'll talk soon here on Flagrant Howls. For Doogie, for the sports dad, for often mustache producer Dex, I'm Phil, and this is a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.